So, a couple of things. First thing, I'm trying out a different headset because the audio from my mic is just getting worse and worse than the other one. I don't know if it's broken or what, but um, it sucks because I don't like this headset. My other headset not only has blue, which is my favorite color, but also it's like more comfortable, and I don't know. My brother got it for me. My spouse has a matching one that's green. That one lights up rainbows if I plug in the USB thing to it. This one's just sort of whatever. So I don't know, but the audio seems to be significantly better on this one. So I'm trying this one out. Um, which is weird because this is like the really old one. So what else? But um, I've been up for a while. It's 7:30. I've probably been up since around 5:30. It's been rough. I last time I recorded, about hour and a half after that, the happy all went away. And it has been gone the entire time since. It's just it's hard. Real life can just be really hard. I've had two breakdowns yesterday. Not one, but two. Just complete breakdowns. I just don't have the capacity that I used to have. I don't have the capability that I used to have to just plow through things without feeling anything. The bad part about being aware of yourself and what you want and your feelings about things is you're also aware of the negative feelings. The reason shutting down's so awful is because you're trying to get away from the bad feelings, but you can't shut down just the bad feelings. You have to shut down all the feelings. I can't feel only the good things. I feel the bad. I'm very aware, and that's hard. And I used to be able to take more, but also I feel like I deserve better. Being someone's emotional punching bag and getting emotionally gurgitated on and yelled at and talked to such bad ways is not okay. I don't deserve it. It's not just emasculating, it would be bad to be done to anyone. And I understand that there's a lot to be dealt with and that there is a lot of emotional stuff to work through. But taking it out on me isn't okay. It just isn't. And I keep trying to set a boundary and be like, you need to not do this. I'm not the person that you want to be upset with, and it's just not being received. So then I get told, just send me away. Just send me away somewhere. Put me in a program or a home or whatever. And I'm like, but then no one gets to be happy. I keep trying to explain that I want us to be happy. I don't need us to be like joyful or ecstatic. I just need us to be content. And most of our life is very content, except the emotional shit and the dealing with pasts. But like our future could be happy. Like our pasts are shit. My spouses and mine both. Even our girlfriend with her parents was pretty shit. But I don't want the future to be like this. But the future doesn't work if everyone doesn't want to come. And my spouse is very much struggling with wanting to embrace feelings because it is hard to be aware of the negative stuff. But it also makes you capable of having the good if you can just focus on it at all. There is good. I used to just take it and just not feel anything at all for years and years. But it's taken like such a toll on me. But also, our future doesn't work unless we all go together. At least not for me. Everyone has to be on board with choosing that future. And my spouse said that sometimes she thinks, oh, that would be good, but that the majority of the time she's just upset and she wants to go back to being the way it was. And that's really hard because the way it was extremely miserable. And she recognizes that. And she even accepts that it's not okay, but that doesn't mean change anything in her mind. That just means beat herself up. I don't know how to resolve this or what to do about it. Because somehow, even though she's been in therapy a lot longer than me, she said yesterday this. She said that I've had a breakthrough and she hasn't. And she's still stuck in the misery, and I'm trying to move out of the misery. And I don't know how to help her move forward and want to move out of the misery too. Again, I'm supposed to be having like all these deep, wonderful joys about transitioning and shit and discovering myself and all these positive feelings or whatever. And The rest of my life does not allow that. Real life, just for me, at least in my life, doesn't allow for that. My spouse is the kindest, sweetest, most lovable, adorable person to everyone else. She used to be like that to me, and I don't know how to get that back. I've tried everything I can think of. I do everything I can think of. I try to be as thoughtful and patient and sweet as I can think of, and nothing works. I want life to stop being so fucking miserable. It was nice to be happy for a little bit. I mean, at first I was just so excited, and then I told my spouse, and she had a big meltdown about what she wanted and what she needed. And that made me have a frustration because this was like one of the biggest moments of my life, and of course it wasn't about me. So then she was like, fine, we'll just go do stuff. And we got a whole bunch of treats to try to make it easier. To try to make it better for her. I was gonna celebrate no matter what, but if I got us a whole bunch of junk food and desserts and all that stuff, then maybe she'd be so happy food-wise that it could bribe her into being happy for me. And it seemed to work for a little while. And then I could just be happy for a little bit. I was so happy. I don't want to be like this all the time. Everyone else has to not want to be like this too. It can't just be me who wants to be happy. I keep getting so upset because I watch our girlfriend try to placate and try to be patient and try to talk things through and argue and explain and then re-explain. And it's all the things that I have done for years that don't work. And I can't have our girlfriend end up like me. And she tries to hide it. I hear her crying at night. I can't have her be like me. And at a certain point, you can give and give and give and do everything under the sun, but if the other person isn't taking any steps forward, nothing improves. At a certain point, it's not on you anymore. The other person has to take some personal responsibility. You've made it as easy to do that as humanly possible to the utmost of your ability within the constraints of money and functionality that you have. Everything revolves around my spouse and her needs and her wants and her moods. Because I live in fear all the time of her being set off by anything. I dread when her mom calls because every freaking time her mom has to go on about some drama or some shit. It seems like it's impossible for her mom to call without my spouse afterwards having a complete and total meltdown. Because her mom is so completely oblivious to how much damage that stuff she says does. And I can understand how hard it is for my spouse. I can understand how difficult her past has been. I can understand how insensitive her mom is. I can understand that she's got a lot of health disorders. Her period's coming soon. All of these things I can completely understand. I can understand she's trying. But none of that makes it okay to treat another human being badly. And just because she's special needs and she can't physically abuse someone doesn't mean that it's not unacceptable behavior. No one deserves to be yelled at and screamed at and unappreciated and never thanked, never liked, never gone to for every need and lashed out at about every single thing that makes her upset. And she'll say it herself, she's always upset. She says she has a hard time because I'm her caretaker and because I'm becoming a man and she associates men with negative things. I understand that. I get both of those things. It's horrible to have to be dependent on anyone. I can't stand it myself. So I can't imagine being forced into it by illness. But at the same time, it's not okay. There has to be a healthier way to express your upsetness. And every single thing that stupid therapist suggests, she either completely ignores because she thinks that it sounds ridiculous, or else she tries it and then complains the whole time that it feels ridiculous. None of it helps. There's only one thing that makes her feel better afterward. I don't want anyone to think badly of her because she's not a bad person. But someone can be a good person and still do things that they shouldn't. I mean, hell, I think I do my best to be a good person as much as humanly possible, and I still do things that I wish I didn't. I don't think anyone is above that. I want to be happier. I want to lead a life that's happier. And from the outside looking in, our life's not too terrible. I mean, yeah, we're super poor, but I mean, we have an apartment and a roof over our head, and we have, food in our belly, and we get to play video games together. We get to hang out, not miss out on memories. I mean, yeah, it's a pandemic right now, and we're not really making a ton of, outdoor memories or whatever, but I mean, I pretty much don't go out to go grocery shopping or to go anywhere without coming back with a treat. I give presents and prizes all the time. I mean, we have a guild where we help people and we give back to the human race. We don't leave much of a footprint as far as, the environment goes. So we don't have to feel bad about that. And we get to have a decently quiet, low stress life for the most part, except just non-stop emotional vomit. And our life is too good to be this awful. I don't get it. Like, I know what bad is. Bad is my past. Realistically, like in reality, our life isn't bad. And yet it gets treated like it is, even though it's not. It's like there's no time orientation, even though time orientation is a thing she's worked on with her specialist for forever. It's like there's no reason to treat life this way. There's no reason to feel this shitty about the present. The past, yes, the past is shitty. But the present isn't. And our future might not be. If we can just embrace the future. We don't have to be miserable. I realize me transitioning isn't as positive as it is for me. I realize I wish it had happened sooner and she doesn't. I don't know if she wants it to happen at all. Except that she wants me to be happy. But the biggest thing that would make me happy is her being happy. Because she's my wife. And I don't like using that word. I don't say it very often. I usually say spouse, but we're supposed to do life together. And yeah, we have our girlfriend that we're supposed to do life together with too, but like, I don't love her less. We're supposed to have a good life together, and our life for the most part is good. But there's no acceptance of that. There's no remembering that. So then everything just feels hopeless all the time. I was starting to feel hopeless about even transitioning. And then I realized it's not that transitioning is somehow moved further away. It just feels like it because of how miserable we are. And miserable for no good damn reason. Except a super insanely abusive past, but I mean, we're both in freaking therapy for that. It's not like we aren't doing anything about it. How can you be doing all the right things and things still go so freaking wrong? I just want so much for us to be able to move forward and be happy. I want so much for her to be able to move forward and be happy. I would give up my own happiness for hers. Even though she won't give up screaming for me. But this can't keep continuing. I never stood up for myself. Ever. Until recently. Until the last little bit. Until this freaking month. But I don't think that I'm really doing it all for me. Our girlfriend can't end up completely fucked up. She can't end up this miserable. I would rather us not be together, and I love her very much. I want to be with her, but I would rather we weren't together than her end up this miserable. It's not acceptable. It's not okay. And she's not the one getting screamed at. But she's still here. She's still watching it happen. She's still trying to somehow fix it. Bide time until things change. But I've been biding time for almost a decade. Things aren't changing unless we all move forward. Somehow, we have to get to a point where we all want the same things, where we all are on the same page, that we choose the future and we let go of the past enough to have the future, that we all want that happy future, that we all want it enough to pursue it, to take responsibility for the steps we have to take to get there, for the responsibility that it requires us to do it and other people can't carry us. They can try to make it easier, but even at its very easiest made, it still is not something where you can be carried. You have to actually want to be happy. And you would think that everyone wants to be happy. But it's not true. Flat out had it out of her mouth last night. She doesn't want to be happy. Because being happy makes her feel vulnerable in her squishy parts. Deep inside of her emotions. She doesn't accept that she already is. If she's upset all the time, she already is. But there can be a different feeling there. If you're going to be feeling something that intensely anyway, why not be content? Why not be grateful for the good things that we do have? Why not be happy that we're together? Or at least want to be happy we're together. Transitioning is hard enough. Trying to be brave enough to talk to doctors is hard enough. Trying to imagine the kind of pain and distress that my body's going to go through is hard enough. I realize it's not in her capacity to support me, to be there for me. She needs someone to take care of her and be there for her. I realize she's never gonna want to take care of me. She's autistic. I don't think she loves me less because she's not capable of that. I wish she would see me hurting and me hurting be enough to stop what she's doing that's hurting. Because that would be love. I'm not her enemy, but she acts like I am. And that's really hard when you love somebody. And it's not just because I'm transitioning. Some people, transitioning could ruin their marriage or whatever because they only want to be with a girl or whatever. But that's not what it is. This has been going on for years and years. It's just... it's never been enough to deter her that I'm suffering. And if you love somebody, you want to protect them, you want to take care of them, you want to do what will never hurt them. And I thought that if I loved her enough and I took care of her enough and I was there for her enough, that eventually she would see how much I loved her and she would love me enough to not want to do that anymore, to not tolerate doing that anymore, to be like, this is completely not okay and unacceptable because I love this person too much to allow this to happen. And that's just not a thing. You can never love someone enough, no matter what you do, no matter how much you give, to convince them if they're not already convinced. If my relationship with my girlfriend and with my spouse has taught me anything, even my relationships with all my exes, if there's anything I've learned from every woman I have ever loved in my entire life. Even women I've had just crushes on. It's that if they're not already convinced, you're not going to convince them. If they don't already care, there's nothing you can do in the entire world to convince them to care. If they see you suffering and that's not enough to motivate change all by itself, it's not happening. There's nothing on the face of the earth that I could do that would change that. The only person who can change that is them. And they have to actually want to. They have to actually not be willing to accept their own behavior and choose that themselves. If you watch this and you're some person who has a crush on somebody, or you're secretly like in love with somebody or something like that, maybe, I don't know, you're somebody and it's not even a crush, it's just a friendship and you wish you were closer friends, whatever it is, it's not you. You can try to be yourself and you can try to be the nicest version of yourself. You can try to be a good person. Whatever it is, there is nothing you can do to convince them. And it's not because you're not good enough, it's because that's their choice. And their choice hurts. It hurts so freaking bad. But it's not you. And at some point you just have to accept that. That you did everything you could and it's just never enough. And that if you have to put that much effort into trying to be enough, automatically they didn't love you as much as you wish they did in the first place. You shouldn't have to convince someone to treat you well. You shouldn't have to convince someone to want to be with you. You shouldn't have to convince someone to do everything in your power to try to get them to see that you're someone worth knowing. That doing life with you could be a good thing. If they can't already tell, they're not looking for you. And as sad as that is, it's unfortunately the truth. It's funny, my mother thinks I've surrounded myself with people who support everything I do. In reality, I've surrounded myself with people I love more than they love me. From my father to my siblings to my, well, not all of my siblings. I think my brother closest in age to me isn't like that, but most of my friends, I'm the one who says hey. They almost never say hey to me unless they need something. Almost every relationship I'm in, even the non-intimate relationships, the non-romantic relationships, and that was my choice. But also I thought that at some point I would start to matter more to them. That if they just got to know me, they would like me. But that's just not how it works. You can devote yourself to other people for years. It doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to convince someone who doesn't want to be convinced. They would want to be convinced if they were already convinced. You shouldn't have to beg for someone to treat you better. You shouldn't have to beg for someone to want to spend time with you. Beg for someone to just love you and be with you. But at the same time, I've never met anyone who just does it automatically. I've never met anyone who met me and immediately felt drawn to me for anything other than what I could do for them, and that they knew I would take care of them and protect them. I've never met anyone who just liked me. But I am going to be me. And maybe once I am me, maybe I'll meet people who like me for me, and the reason they couldn't was because I wasn't me yet. And they couldn't understand once I look more like me. Maybe they'll understand more easily. At least I'll like me better, and that's a good start. And I'll still be the same person, just with a different frame. And yet that different frame can cause a different frame of mind. And that's a big deal. That's important. Somehow, I've got to get some sort of capacity for strength, emotional resilience, or whatever, without shutting down. But also, I just don't think it's okay. Even if I understand all the reasons why it's happening. I do hope that someday everyone that I want to be happy with me will be willing to choose to be happy with me in the future, and that they'll choose that happy future together that they say they want. They'll actually make steps toward it, and they'll actually desire it enough to take some responsibility for getting there, instead of just trying to maintain. Maintaining sucks. It's a stagnant pool of scum. I want us to all go together. And just as much as the other ones have to want to go, I want to go as myself. My happy future needs to actually involve me. That's why transitioning is so freaking important. When you don't have you in your life doesn't fit you.